I went ahead and printed out all of the prints for 101, 2s, 3s, and 4s. No, sorry. I printed out most of the prints for 102s, 3s, and 101s, 2s, and 3s, and 4s. So I have all of your prints for you to get started with. We're going to do some safety stuff this morning. This is real general safety stuff. In your modules, your first module, you'll probably see them changing this week as we're doing some tweaking. 101s and 102s look pretty good. 103s and 104s need a little bit of work on them. So I'm gonna set them out here. And before you all walk out to the shop today, so we'll go to the shop, start looking at material, and then we'll get everybody's.
Am I the only 103?
I don't know.
Am I the only 102?
I don't know.
You guys are.
I
Who's
think,
102?
yeah.
I'm looking at you, Brent. Oh, no, you're 101.
Yeah.
No, I just realized.
You say that to every single question. Anything that anybody ever, you go, I don't know. I'm like, I could be like, what's your name? I'm not really sure. You know, I don't know that that's a great life method. Like at some point, that's going to be a problem with you. Like, because the cop's going to walk up to you and be like, are you drunk? And you're like, I don't know. Great, let's go. You know, and so
Get in the car, let's find out.
yeah, so I don't know is not always the best answer.
Isn't that their job to figure it out, though?
No, I don't know. Yeah.
If you just admit to it, you're doing their job for them.
I'm in one-on-one.
Well, I think everyone else knew that. Yeah, I don't think that was any kind of a mystery to anybody. So I've kind of laid them out. I think 1, 2, 3, and 4 across here. So I just made one copy of everything. Oh, no. It's just one copy of each. So we'll go to the copier and we'll make copies of them. Okay. So I didn't want to print 10 copies of each one for you. I'm not your mom.
I had mine all printed out and then it's sleep for a second.
Yes. Yeah. If you've already got yours ready to go, you had already emailed me about it. Hey, I'll show you where to find them. So it's a good question. If you don't know where to find them, you're going to open up Canvas. Let's see, I'm going to go. This is probably Canvas. And go over here. And so you open up your 101, and you go to modules. And so see, here's the project right here. Open up the project. There's a download for it. Okay, so that's where I went. I went straight to Canvas, just started downloading them all out. Everybody's except for 104s today. So it's there. If you're just having an aversion to printing things out, you're allergic to paper or whatever. I know you don't know if you are or not, but if you don't want to print them out, then that's fine. But I think that having them printed out, 3-hole punch them, put them in your binder. Anybody get a binder yesterday? Okay. Anybody still? Huh? Yeah, you don't need one. Anybody still need a binder? I feel like I said yesterday, hey, after you're done in class, walk down to fielding. There are 2 giant boxes full of binders. Anybody, I know you don't remember. Yeah. I'm gonna roll with that one for a while. Okay, who needs a binder? Yes, binder. Why did you got one? Okay, binder. Yeah, that's right. You got one. You need a binder. Okay, you need a binder. Okay, I want you two to walk down to the 3rd classroom. And I went ahead and I anticipated y'all. So I walked down to fielding myself and I went and got the 2 boxes of binders. So go get you the most ugly, pink, flowery binder that you can. Don't come back with like a white one or a black one. This thing needs to have flowers or Smurfs on it. I don't even know what a Smurf is. So, okay, everybody else has a binder. Yep, look at you go. You're going to print your prints out today. We'll go to the copy machine. We'll print the prints out and 3-hole punch them. That way you've got them. If you want to make 2 copies of them, totally fine. Like I said, this isn't all the prints, but this is these are the prints that we need to get started. So other than that, we'll start going through some safety stuff. We are videoing today. I will have a safety test, a general knowledge safety test for you by the end of the day and when I say end of the day, by the end of like 5 o'clock day. I'll have that for you in Canvas. First module, first thing it'll say something like safety test or general safety or something. It'll be then the slides that we went over today and then the safety test. Since we went away from immersive, we're still having just a little bit of struggle transferring and shifting everything into our own content. So I had to pull back some stuff that we used to use. So I'll put these slides on it.
You said not white or black, I got red.
Don't worry, I got pink.
Yeah, you did. Okay, so it's cool. Yeah, I mean, if you think you might need another one of these for another class or something, there's probably several in there that you can take and use. So they're free for you to use. They're ones we just didn't want to throw away. So let's see your stuff. So John is well prepared. John already, I can tell, is going to do. You're in the wrong place.
I know, that's what I was coming to ask you.
Oh, okay. You're
Yeah, sorry, I just.
No, you're
I
totally
don't-
fine.
Oh, right here, all right.
high school starts today. John is the model citizen here. Check it out. Unofficial transcript. Resume. It's like he listened to everything I said. Certifications. That's a great picture. John at the groundbreaking. Yeah, groundbreaking. NIM certifications, and then what they are behind them. NC3 certifications, and then his book and information stuff. Things that he needs, things that are vital. Part prints, information, notes. See how prepared that is, so that when you go out to the shop, you're like, hey, we're going to work on part 7943862. And he just pulls up that print, good to go. So, awesome. And then if you need a print, and if you need some of those little envelope things, those little clear things, I think I have some of those. So, you're welcome to use those if you want to. Let me make sure that I have them. I don't have them here. I have some somewhere. If you need to 3-hole punch them now, that's totally fine to do, and then we'll get the other stuff done as we go. Okay, so that's great. And not all that stuff has to be done today, but it's something that you want to start thinking about. How do I get this stuff in here so that it looks good? Today we will be out in the shop. We're at least going to start getting some stuff sawed, ready to saw. We'll go through some saw safety and some things like that. So, all right, so let's go and start going through some safety things. I was thinking I had something. Oh, I do have something else. I need 5 to 6 students to go with either myself or someone else Thursday morning to Stanley Black & Decker to scrape toilets. Yeah, a couple hours. Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. So what they're gonna want is a handful of us to go over there, and they want us to evaluate their toolboxes. It's a great opportunity to go over there, and so we've got their toolboxes over here, and he said, man, I'd love a little bit of student feedback. So they're gonna have some boxes set up, I think. I don't know. And hey, I love the way the drawer works. I hate the way it locks, whatever. Don't be afraid to give them pros and cons on stuff like that. So if you're interested in that before you leave today, we'll go over there between 9 and 10. So we'll probably let class out early that day. So if you don't go, then I can't be in 2 places, and I need to go over there with them. So we'll go over there from 9 to 10, between 9 and 10. I need about a half dozen of you guys, and then we'll go through, do some evaluations on toolboxes, and then I think they'll do a quick tour with you guys through there. Stanley Black & Decker is one of our apprenticeship partners, And not only are they a great donor to us, but they're an apprenticeship partner, which means if you get connected with them in the apprenticeship, like John is in an apprenticeship with MACH101. I was over there the other day. Last Friday, maybe Thursday, Friday. So those twin spindles, the Akuma How 7 and 8 is having a problem with the spindle. And so Brian Blatterman, who runs that machine, and I are pretty good friends because we're both old. And so I went over there and took a look at it. They thought it was a programming problem. The problem is that they keep reducing their spindle speed. And so when they're doing that, it doesn't have enough RPM when they run that tool in there to make those big cuts, and it's stopping the spindle. So I was like, crank the speed up, man. And I think they have another problem. But anyways, we spent an hour or two over there talking to Ricardo. And anyways, had a good time. But so if you work for Stanley Black & Decker, they will pay you while you're at school. They will pay for your school. And then they're training you as you go. And so that's how our apprenticeship works. And every apprenticeship is slightly different.
Did they just lay off 50 people?
Not from tool room. Yeah. So I don't know about anything else, but so I know that tool room wise they're still looking for people. So they're looking to add another couple of apprentices. Yeah. I know Gardner Denver's hiring. I know Pro Energy's hiring.
Not a part of our thing.
That's true. They are not a part of the official apprenticeship consortium, but several of the places do basically the same thing in a reimbursement way. So even MACH101,
I figured out an interview and all that, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not even part of your apprenticeship program, so we're not going to hire you."
Yeah, like mine, they'll do the certificate, and then for the rest of it, I do like a tuition reimbursement. They have.
Everybody's got a slightly different flavor of how they do it, so they can tweak it however they want.
Black & Decker and the one in MACH101 is the best one.
Yeah, ConAgra's got one, Adient's got one, Stanley Black & Decker's got one. I think Wireco might have one. There's.
Arrow still out there on 50 does?
Do I know what they do? Yeah, they sell steel.
They don't have a machine shop in there at all?
Yeah, they just.
Right near where I'm at.
Oh, is it? Yeah, so they just, they're our steel supplier. And so they saw plasma cut and deliver steel. What's that?
That's all I did, capital machine, just.
Yeah,
Well,
just like that.
stuff, everything.
Just like that. So just sawing, cutting, selling steel, aluminum. We buy a lot of aluminum and brass from them. Okay, so let's talk safety. Your normal first mode of kind of first line of defense and safety is that you need safety glasses with side shields. If you don't have side shields, if you wear glasses like I do, you do, don't have side shields, I've got some if you need some. They're little like ones that go off and on, and those are okay. There's better ones out there, but I just know I've got some of those, and you just take them off when you're done and be done with them. Everybody else who doesn't wear glasses, there's no such thing as a safety squint. So you need to make sure that you have real safety glasses on. Does everybody have real safety glasses? Everybody got them?
Well, I'm
Tinted-
gonna get those.
Yeah, tinted lenses won't work. They do sell clear lenses in the bookstore. I noticed some of your all's boxes actually had pairs of glasses in them. If you have a pair of glasses in there that were already existing, they're probably used. Be sure to wash them out real good. I mean, because you got no, like, hock and loogies on them. I don't know. But if you would, wash them out real good. I think it's a good idea to have a couple pair, throw a couple in your box, and just be good to go for all time. Once you leave this classroom out into the shop, it is glasses all day long. Okay, so you should get used to wearing those and not even thinking anything about them. Before I wore glasses, I was notoriously bad about wearing them. I was good about wearing them on my head, but never on my face. So we really, really want to push that because we don't want problems like that happening. So also, if you see anything out in the shop that looks like potential, hazard problem, something's on fire, you know, something looks dangerous, sharp in a place where it shouldn't be sharp, say something so we can get something taken care of so that we don't have that problem, okay? So I want to make sure that those things are not going to be issues for us. Okay, so long pants, closed-toed shoes, and really that's pretty much it for that. All right, so let's go. Try to get over here. Got too many things going. So one of the things that can be a shop hazard is a lot of the chemicals and stuff that we have out in the shop. Does anybody know how you find out what is a dangerous chemical or not? Or maybe you're allergic to, Hunter, you might be allergic to bronze.
Material safety data sheet.
Yeah. So it's actually not called a material safety data sheet, or MSDS is what it was always called before. It's now just called an SDS, safety data sheet. And so why they changed that, so it was a material safety data sheet for a really long time. And so we have a flammables cabinet on the back side of the horizontal mill. You can't see the flammables cabinet that's back there. On the front of it, it has a book that if it's a chemical, if it is a material, if it has anything in it that is potentially hazardous to you, it is in that book. So if you know you are deathly allergic to WD-40, we have all the ingredients of WD-40 in there, so you could be like, man, I'm trying to figure out why every time I drink WD-40, I get sick. And then you can be like, oh, it's this in there, you know. So anyways, all that stuff is listed. So if you have a problem, occasionally we'll see somebody who might get some skin irritation from coolant. Oftentimes that's not because of the coolant. Typically that would happen because the coolant starts to get bad and it starts to get bacteria built up in it. And that bacteria starts to get on your skin, and then that's actually the thing that causes the problems. We have a couple of new coolant cleaners this year. One is on, so when you come straight into the shop, the mill that you kind of see the backside of, right kind of catty corner from my office, it's got a big tank on the back of it with like a green foam piece or mesh thing in the back. It's a portable coolant cleaner. So you'll take it off and move it from machine to machine, put the hoses in, it'll clean your coolant for you while you're running that day. A couple things you got to watch out for with that is that it's magnetized to the back of the machine. Those magnets are insanely strong. Like, Chance, you're going to have to be like hanging off of the machine to get it off. Like, it was like a cartoon when I went to put it up there. So it's like a black plate. And I got about 4 inches from the machine and it pulled it out of my hand and snapped up to the wall. And I was like, is there a switch on it? I don't think I can get this thing back off. I'm going to have to buy another one because I can't get this thing off. I mean, it's like really on there. And so then it has a clear translucent tank. Before you move it, drain the tank. And then you just pick it up. We'll put it on a cart and move it over to the next station. And so what I'm going to have is I'll have just a laminated piece of paper with a magnet on it or sticky or something like that that just says, clean the coolant of this machine today. So if you end up when we start to go out to machines, on CNC machines, whenever I give you one to work on, you might end up on machine 3, and machine 3 might have a sticker on it that day that says, you need to clean the coolant in this machine. On our manual machines, it's not so much an issue. We still use coolant from time to time, but it would be coolant straight out of a tank or something like that, so it wouldn't be as much of an issue. So, so SDS and MSDS is things that you need to know about as far as the chemical world. Safety is not often thought about. So I think most of the time people don't think about safety things until after they've cut themselves or hurt themselves. You have gloves in your toolboxes this year. Use those in the appropriate places. You don't use those when your hands are close to a machine, okay? So if you're on the bandsaw, you're on the bench grinders, you're on a mill, occasionally you'll see somebody do something really ridiculous, like they're drilling a hole on a mill or the lathe, and big stringers are coming off, and they're going to try and grab them out of there. That is ludicrous to do that, you know. So if if you can just stop the machine, pull the quill up, take the stuff out of the way, and then restart it back up, okay? So same thing, like gloves are good to use when you're putting a bandsaw blade on the bandsaw. Those are the appropriate times to use stuff like that. So not when those other things are going on.
You have a chip brush too.
Absolutely, there's chip brush in your box. Believe it or not, and this is beneficial, but it could also be a safety concern as well. Over on the manual side now we have air that comes down, so it is sweet, but it brings in a potential hazard as well. One of the reasons why we didn't have it in the other shop is because we didn't want people blowing chips on other people. Now, we've got just 2 of them for each area, so there's 2 of them on the mills and 2 of them on the lathes that just kind of come down from the ceiling. And so put an air nozzle on it, you can blow off your stuff. Don't be ridiculous about it. The only time I've ever had a chip get in my eye is from a ricochet when I was wearing safety glasses. So it hit my cheek, popped up my glasses, went straight to my eye. So it was like pinball on my face. And only time it's ever happened to me. But it happened just because of it, a chip being shot out. So if you're standing at a mill, you're standing at a lathe, it's okay to use air. Take a look at your environment before you do anything. Don't just start blowing chips through the spindle tube that's blowing it right onto Cole as he's standing there trying to get his other stuff going, or he just turned around and shoots right in his face. You don't want to do that to somebody, so make sure that you're paying attention to your area in there. And so like most things become, bad habits usually end up showing themselves as problems later on. Let's see. Pull these all out. So one of the things that you want to think about as far as safety in a shop, I mean, it's safety for us as well. So OSHA is obviously a big deal in shops. OSHA isn't a factor here. OSHA doesn't step foot on the grounds here, but they can definitely come into your shop. But it's pretty uncommon for stuff like that to happen. But if you want to think about just the shop that you work at or wherever you work, the idea is that they're profitable. If you're cutting your finger and getting stitches and going to the hospital every month because of something, you're probably going to turn out to be not very profitable. And if everybody's doing that, then the company's not profitable. So if you're not profitable, then you're probably not staying there very long. And if the company's not profitable overall, then they're not going to be there very long. And so you basically wasted your time in the job. So one of the things that you want to make sure is that you're doing the best that you can to take care of yourself. You definitely want to be able to count to 10 until the day you die, right? So you want to make sure that those things are there. I have seen some really crazy stuff. I saw a guy drop probably a 6-inch round piece of steel directly on his foot and not wearing steel toes. We didn't require steel toes in our shop. We said leather boots. They could be closed-toed. So like these are not steel toe, and that would have been appropriate at our shop. So he was wearing boots, but they were not steel toe, and crushed his toes. And like it didn't really seem like that big of a deal, but for it's probably been 15 years ago that happened. It still has an effect on him today. So like this thing that you don't think is a big deal can really be a big deal. Just taking a look at your environment that you're working with. One day I was standing using an air chain hoist, and I was picking up a piece of material about 24 inches in diameter, about 8 inches thick, getting ready to put it up into the lathe. Got it all the way up to chuck height, and I was standing there talking to the guy who was working across from me, and we were talking about, whatever, just things that you talk about through the day, and the thing goes poof, and just hits the ground. And I was like, what just happened? And I mean, we both stand there, and I go, as smart as I am, I go, did you see that? And he's like, well, of course I saw it. I'm like 2 feet from you, looking at you. And so we stopped. Every single link on that chain had been cracked for probably 10 years. And so we had just bought it at an auction. And so I was like, sweet, air chain hoist, my life got easier. And so it was just total junk. So the owners come out of the shop, and the first thing they said was, hey, is the machine okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. You know, and they were like, man, what would have happened if that would have been over the lathe and it would have fell on the bed? I was like, I'm still okay, thanks, you know, and they're like, yeah, we care about that too. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention for those things. All right, talking about dust collection. So we have out, and I think we talked about it quickly yesterday, out on all of the grinders, that includes service grinder and bench grinders, we have dust collection. We have not been good about using it in the past. We have to use it this for now on. So we have a totally new grinder setup. Matt's putting together all the new ductwork for it right now. So you'll need to, before you run a bench grinder or service grinder, flip that dust collector on first. It's a little jet box. If it is not, it seems to not be functioning right, it's got filters in it. And believe it or not, those filters need to be changed every once in a while or cleaned out. So if it stops working, don't be like, dude, the next dude's gonna totally have to clean this out. Like, just take a second, stop, clean it out. Take you 5 minutes to do it. Dump it, put it back in, you're good to go. It's gonna cut down on all the dust. You do not wanna be inhaling that stuff. Because like, what you do today doesn't necessarily have an effect on you today, but when you're 40, 50, it's definitely gonna have some effect on you. So you wanna make sure that you're paying attention to those things. Same thing with gloves. Just getting too close to something. If you're like your lanyards that you have on today, you're not gonna be able to wear those out in the shop like that. Okay, so I love those lanyards, but they also bring in potential hazards, whether you're on the grinder, the lathe, the mill, whatever. You wanna make sure that you're not leaning in and having that thing come out. So it needs to be stuck down in your shirt. Same thing with hoodie strings. Need to be either cut off. If you have a hoodie that you're gonna wear here all the time, just cut the string off and just don't even use it. So you probably don't need the hood in the shop because you're just really gonna look weird. So, you know, and really we have the uniform shirts. You should be fine, shouldn't have a problem. So you wanna make sure that there's no dangly things that come down. If you like to wear long feathery earrings or something like that, that's not gonna be okay. So you're gonna need to do something different with that. I knew that that would be an issue for you. That's why I brought it up. Yeah, I want to make.
In here with earrings?
What's that?
I think I'm the only one in here with earrings.
I have had holes in my ears, but other than the factory ones, but I have not worn earrings for probably 30 years. So I think I'm probably not a candidate.
Am I the oldest one in here too?
I don't know. You would have to poll the group as far as age. How old are you?
34.
Then yes. Yeah, I mean, other than me, I'm 35. I'm just kidding. I'm 47. All right, so general dust collection, just be really cautious on what it is you do as far as the grinder. Even like a 4-inch grinder, just be really cautious of those things. Some of these things won't really be applicable to us, but still good information. All right, same thing with any type of oils that we use. I see this happen all the time, and I tell students all the time that just going to the flammables cabinet, grabbing an oil out of there and using it on the machine to lubricate the surface, I think is what you're thinking. Maybe, well, that's actually what you're doing. But maybe you're cutting threads and you want to keep it from, chattering or getting too hot, and you might go out and put some oil on it. Most of those oils are lubrication oils, not cutting oils, okay? So when you go out and do that, and so you're cutting threads and it's taking big cuts and it has a tendency to get hot, potential to chatter and have some other problems, and it looks better and cuts better, or maybe you're tapping or cutting with a die. If you were to use something like WD-40 or one of the oils in the clicker cans, oftentimes those are lubrication oils, not cutting oils. So think about it, what a lubrication oil is doing. Right, so it's trying to create a layer of oil between the cutting tool and the material. Cutting oil has sulfur in it that does something different. It activates the cutting rather than tries to stop the cutting. So you spraying WD-40 or 1030 oil on your threading tool as it's cutting is not making the cut better, it's making the cut worse. So you really need to use the Cool Tool bottle with Cool Tool in it, okay? That's what that is for. And so if you go over there and you're like, oh, empty, definitely not do anything with it, just gonna put it back, grab another one, up, empty, definitely not gonna say anything, and I'm just gonna keep on going through, and then finally you get to that jug that you know is probably motor oil, but you're like, all I need to do is my thing. You do run the potential of, if you don't know what's inside of there, I mean, in today's, in the environment that we live in, that thing could be full of gasoline. You have no clue, right? And so if you go over there on your part and man, you're just ripping it out and you just start pouring, you know, I mean, who knows? You just don't know, right? I mean, you just don't want to go over there and have, I mean, it would take some pretty intense heat to create a fire, but it's potential. And no one wants to go, man, I was in the machining program, and they're like, you're not anymore? Well, actually, I burned the building down. It was brand new. Yeah, we were the first group of students. I burned it down. How did that happen? Well, I grabbed some cutting oil, but it turned out as gasoline. Like, my question would be, why would be gasoline be in here? But then they'd be like, didn't you check? Well, I was in a hurry because I just wanted to get my part done. I mean, how many times have you said you saw a problem or something wrong and you were like, all I need to do is get my thing done. This thing can burn to the ground after I'm done. I don't care. This machine can fall apart. And here's what's funny is that I've watched you guys do that before, and then nothing happens to it. You come back in the next day to the same machine and you still have the same problem, and you're like, dang. Because the goal was to come in the next day earlier, go to a different machine and let somebody else deal with that problem, but then you got in here later and you ended up in the exact same spot, and you're like, dang, that sucks, man. So anyways, you want to make sure that you're just, paying attention to the stuff that's right in front of you. So make sure you know what those chemicals are, and make sure that you're aware of the fumes that they create. I love the smell of dicum. I mean, it smells good, man. And but you don't want to inhale that stuff, right? Like, you don't want to be that guy. When I was in middle school, so 7th grade, this is in the 1890s. They had this kid, and he would take spray paint and spray it into a bag. And so this is industrial arts, and this is back when they still had industrial arts. And so he would just huff it, and one day he's just fully passed out in the lab area, and then like he's just got yellow all over his face, and he wakes up, and this is back in the day where we would not have moved him today, right? And like they just picked him up and drug his like passed out body into the office, and he woke up in the principal's office, and they were like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I don't know. I must have passed out." And they were like, "Were you huffing spray paint?" He's like, "No." I mean, like just yellow. Like seriously, these things have fumes that are very dangerous, man. Now we have great ventilation. We actually have ventilation systems on either side of the shop. If you have a problem, if you see some fumes building up, or if you smell some fumes, if you're having any kind of issue like that, come grab one of the instructors. We'll just turn that on. We'll get all that stuff out of there. Because maybe we haven't noticed, maybe we're in class or on another part of the shop. That's what those things are built for, so we can get anything out of there. I mean, honestly, when the CNCs are really kicking, if they don't have smoke eaters on them, they will start to build up some fumes in there. And most of it's steam driven because of the heat. And so you want to make sure that we don't want to breathe that stuff in. There's literally a device to get that out of here. You don't want to endure that when you don't have to. I mean, it's like walking around with a wasp in your shoe.
Yeah, that happened too.
I did have that happen, yeah. But no one would leave the wasp in their shoe, right? No one goes, man, I got a wasp in my shoe. And just leave. They're like, I got a wasp in my shoe, and they kick the shoe off, right? So yeah, I mean, you just want to make sure you take care of the things as they come up. All right, we talked about SDS, and here it still says MSDS. MSDS is definitely a thing that we've heard about for so long. We've talked about eye protection. No kidding, all day long in the shop, eye protection must be worn. There's really just no gray area on that. Like we already talked about side shields. There's several different variations of ways to keep your eyes safe. Man, if you're like, dude, I need a face shield because I know me and I'm just like crazy out of control, then that's cool. Do that. I'm not buying one for you, but if you want to bring one in, that's totally fine. I don't buy your safety glasses for you. So, I mean, if you want science class goggles, that's cool as well. They probably will start to steam and fog up on you. But if you want that, if that's the look you're going for, you know, walking out of here with the ring around your face, that's cool. That's cool. I don't care. I mean, as long as they are Z87 safety glasses, you've got some side shield protection on there. I don't care. I don't care how you do it after that. So as long as they're good to go. Don't bring in your grandpa's vintage safety glasses from the 1940s, and those are not going to be okay. We talked about closed-toed shoes. Steel toes are preferable. So I'll go back and forth on steel toes or no steel toes. Just depends on what I'm wearing. And so they're not required in here, but there's a lot of people who wear the composite toes now. Anybody have composite toes? You do? You like them better?
They're a lot lighter.
A lot lighter, yeah. Steel toes get pretty heavy, you know. And so when steel toes get dinged up enough, then that metal starts to get exposed on the end. And then, like, we always left our boots at the shop. And so we would take our boots off, switch into shoes as we left. Bad thing about that is people take and weld the toes of your boots together, you know. And then you come in the next day and you're like, dang it. And so then you got to saw them apart and grind it back down. And that's probably not good for them, you know. So it's hilarious. So what would happen to us is they would take their people's steel toes and they would take them up to the beams in the ceiling of the building, and they would tack them up to the top there. Yeah. Where I have a friend who I've told this one before, but I have a friend who worked at Eskridge, and they're in Kansas City area. And if you left your boots there, and if they didn't like you, they'd fill them up with grease.
Whoa.
So you stick your foot in there, and it'd be like 2 inches of grease, you know. And that ruins the boot.
How do you get that out?
You don't get that out. You throw a fit and you just punch someone in the face in a safe way, all right? So, because we're talking about safety. So, yeah, we probably won't. All right, so let's talk about ear protection. So out in the shop, there will be times where we get loud. We got so loud last year. I am trying to get you to take big cuts, okay? So when you're on the mill and you're fly cutting and you're doing things, I'm always going to go, hey, you can take a bigger cut than that. You can take a bigger cut than that. And so what happens when we're fly cutting and stuff is sometimes that does start to get loud, especially if your tool starts to get dull. And so when we were in the other building, we kind of backed up to some industrial maintenance classes. And one time we were so loud in there that they come in, they were like, dude, that is just killing us. You know, is there any way you can quiet it down? I was like, no.
I took a half-inch cut on the lathe board.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I want you to be taking, big cuts. Fast metal removal is what we're trying to get done to. We're not trying to make baby cuts across this thing and spend all day just, you know, wearing this thing down, you know.
It was gonna fall out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, proper work holding is paramount in those things. But like when you're fly cutting, man, I want you to take at least 1/8 of an inch as you're ripping across there, okay? So, so when we get to those times, I'm going to try to get you to take bigger cuts and do bigger things. And it does start to build up some sound. When everything's kicking in here, morning classes might be in here doing this. CNC classes might be in over there doing that. Then our high school classes might be over there doing their thing. So you could get 30 people in here at one time, and it will start to get loud. So we've got earplugs as soon as you go out this door, and then you hit that first sink. There is a box of ear protection there. If you want to just grab a handful of them, a reasonable handful, and then put it in your toolbox, it's totally fine with me. And you can just have them there, use them as much as you want. You know, earplugs they are meant to be wadded up and then kind of put down in that canal they just should not touch your brain, okay? But they should be in far enough that they can do the thing that they need to do. And if you have your own kind of ear protection that you want to use, wax or whatever, you want to use the kind, like they'll have little wax balls that go in there. They're more for like swimming. So If you want to use that, you have your own. You're welcome to bring in your own. You don't have to use mine. You don't have to use ear protection at all. If you want to use ear muffs, like the kind that go over your head, as long as they're not like totally silenced out everything, you do still need to be able to hear something. If the building is on fire, we need to be able to make sure that those things are you can hear something. Also, you can't, I don't want you to have something that's audio playing inside of there. So like if you bring in your lawn mowing headphones that have the radio on them, then those are not going to be okay. So we'll make sure that we're doing things right for that. All right, 85 decibels. Oh, I think it passed long hair guy. So if you're super goth and want to have some long hair and stuff, it looks like all of you guys are pretty decent. Long hair, stuff like that, getting in the way. Be clear of your environment. If you're wearing a hat and you're running the lathe and you're leaned over and the hat falls off, what are you going to do? Leave the stupid hat, right? Unless it's one of the machining hats that I gave you. I paid money for those. But no, if anything falls, you let it fall, you shut the machine off, and then you take care of the problem. There is no hat that's worth more than your fingers, okay? So you can get a second hat. You can't get a second hand. I mean, you have two hands, so you have a second hand. You can't get a third hand, okay? So make sure that you're clear of your environment. We do a class for ConAgra every year, basically. That class was developed because a guy was running a lathe, and he was running a file across the top of it, deburring some stuff, deburring a shaft, and it caught his sleeve, and it pulled him in, wrapped him around the spindle, and luckily he did not have it super tight in the chuck, and it was spinning. Somebody came over there and hit the stop on the machine, but it broke his arm, broke his shoulder, and jacked him up pretty bad. Yeah.
Also, don't be spraying inside while the machine's running. The air hose and stuff, like spraying around, because I seen a guy where I work, he was spraying around inside on a fourth axis mill, and that table went over his hand and ripped half of his hand off.
Yeah. All of our CNC machines, minus 2 of them, have door switches on them, so the doors can't be opened while it's running. We have 2 that do, that they're old enough that they didn't have safety switches on those doors because they're add-ons, but all the rest of them, you're unable to do anything. Even now on the newest Haas machines that we have, you can't even, so on the midline ones on the mills, you could turn the spindle on, open the doors, and the spindle would go down to 750. So you could still jog it around and edge fine and stuff. On the new ones, you can't even do that. You've got to have doors closed for every single thing that you do. So now the shop you work at probably has disconnected the safety switches. We will not do that. Okay, that's never going to happen here. Same thing that goes with jewelry, and we've already touched on like strings and stuff. But if you wear a long necklace or something like that, you need to keep all those things out of the way. I mean, if it comes off of your body by 2 inches, that's probably the end of it. All right, so we talked about gloves and chip brushes. Use the chip brush. Don't try to be a Superman. Lift with your knees. Hey. Do you need me? What do you need me for? Okay.
I might be back, but
Okay.
not right now.
All right, that'll work.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, lift with your what? Legs. If it has any kind of weight to it at all, we've got pallet jacks, we've got fork trucks, we've got other people. There's really absolutely no reason for you to show off, and
Isn't there a crane over there too?
not a crane in here. Yeah.
It's over there.
There is one over in welding, but there's just no reason. Most of the stuff that we do is not heavy enough that it's going to be an issue anyway. So probably the biggest thing that we are gonna be dealing with would be when material comes in 12-foot bars, and we're cutting it up into shorter manageable pieces at that point. So, yeah, don't even mess around with that. So don't be that guy, be this guy. Horseplay. I am all for having a good time in the shop, but not at the point of somebody else getting hurt, not at the point of even distracting other people. We want to make sure that those things never happen. When I was young and had just really started doing some stuff, I was working on a pretty expensive rotor for Garner Denver one day, and I wrote this program, and I was walking through the parts on it, and I wasn't paying attention, and it had a tool change in it, and I didn't change the tools because I was talking to somebody, and I just hit cycle start again, and I just plowed this rotor apart, and the owner comes over and is like, "What happened?" And I was like, "I was talking to somebody, and I was not paying attention." And he's like, "Well, that was like $3,000. I don't think it was probably that much, but it doesn't matter. I scrapped it. It was his. He had to pay for it. It just sucked." So nothing wrong with talking and having a conversation with somebody besides you, but it shouldn't be something that distracts them, causes any type of problems along the way. Compressed air, since we have compressed air, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to that. Use the chip brushes. Don't blow things across the room. Please don't make air gun driven blowguns that shoot plastic bullets across the shop. We have a lot of glass in this place, and I don't ever want to have to go to management and be like, "Hey, those awesome great windows that we have out front? I need one replaced." And they're going to go, "Why?" And I'm going to be like, "Because of this plastic bullet that somebody machined." I have one of those that I made for myself a long time ago out of conduit. Don't make one. But it's super fun, but not super fun for here. Okay, it's super fun to do somewhere else in an appropriate environment.
Some sketches.
Yeah, that environment is not here. Yeah.
So these burns came from when I was doing welding school. My buddy turned my welder all the way up and stick that damn thing to the table, and next thing I know, it's red hot and exploding.
Right. It's just not okay. Just not okay to do. We would take, we built these air guns out of conduit, and we would take your air nozzle apart and screw it to the end of this conduit, make a little plastic plug, little MPT that came out the backside of it. And we made these little plastic bullets. Mine's got flames on it and stuff, and we put them in there. And what would happen was we had these big trusses that went through the shop, these big metal trusses, and they would build up dust on them. And so we had this Blanchard grinder that sat underneath it. And so you just shoot it and hit the truss, and then all the dust would fall down on the guy. And you were 80 feet away from them, and they had no clue who it was. And we just blast them. On Saturdays, the owners wouldn't be there. We just bang, and just all day long. This guy Blanchard grinder was it was the entry level job, right? So it was where you figured out if the guy was going to stay or not, or come after you. And so we would just sit up there and just shoot them all day long instead of working. So not poor decisions is what that was. So don't be like that. All right, so housekeeping as far as cleaning up your areas. We used to have a can like this. This is a fireproof can, so if you put shop rags in there, it helps keep it suffocated so it can't catch fire. We don't have a can like that anymore. We only use the disposable shop rags because they tear apart. If they were to probably get on a spinning piece, they shouldn't. That shouldn't happen. But they are pretty easy to take care of. They need to go in the trash all the time. I'm not your mom. I don't need to come by and clean your mess up after you get done working in that day. So go straight to the trash with them. I would say this too, with one of those blue shop rags, it's a multiple use kind of thing. If you use it to wipe your hands off and it's not really that dirty, just leave it there, and you can use it 3 or 4 times, and then when it gets really dirty, throw it away. I've got plenty more, so when you run out of that roll, then just grab me and we'll get another roll, throw it in your box, and be good to go. So You wanna make sure that that area is clean and everything's set up for that. Fire extinguishers, there are fire extinguishers throughout the building. You wanna make sure, I think all of ours are ABC fire extinguishers. If there is a problem, somebody needs to call 911, somebody needs to grab a fire extinguisher, start doing some stuff, okay? So don't try to take care of yourself. Don't come looking for me. I mean, somebody should come look for me, right? But like, don't go, dude, that's on fire. I'm gonna take a picture of it, and then I'm gonna go say something to Justin. Like, we need to act immediately on those types of things, okay? So there's some information about what's the best thing to do for those fires. Electrical, if something is locked out, tagged out, then obviously you're not gonna use it or be able to use it. If you see some type of an issue that's electrical, please say something so we can get taken care of immediately. That shouldn't happen in this building, but I don't say that anything can't. We will have a section over lockout, tag out, so we'll take care of those things. Here's some carrying object lessons. And then a quick machine safety checklist. And some of these things we'll go through just real quickly as we're like starting to look at the machine, and then we'll go through them more in depth as we go. Do I know how to operate this machine? Don't walk up to one of the 5-axis mills, turn it on and fire it up and hit cycle start. Probably bad move. You know, don't operate it unless you know how to use it. Know what the potential hazards are, pinch points and stuff like that. Know that all the guards are in place. As far as I know, we do not have any guards removed from anything, and we would not intentionally remove any guards from anything. Is the way that I'm going to do this safe? Am I doing something that I probably shouldn't do? I mean, honestly, that could be a tattoo for y'all. Am I doing something that I probably shouldn't do? Have I made all the right adjustments, locking bolts and clamps? I think that's even on just general, not necessarily even safety, but in just general practices along the way that you go. So if you're running the mill and you're fly cutting across something and you don't have the table locked down, there's nothing to say that that table won't start to veer away from you. A lot of vibrations and stuff, so make sure that you have the right axis is locked. Is your workpiece securely in place? Is it properly secured? You don't want a piece of material coming out. Do you have the proper safety equipment? Do I know where the stop switch is? I mean, I just tell you on our machines, anything that's red will stop the machine. If it's a reset button, if it's a stop button, if it's an e-stop button. So push those things when you're in doubt. Do I think about safety in everything that I do? You should. Here's just a little bit of information about OSHA. And like I said, OSHA doesn't really have a place in here, but we're trying to make sure that we're covering all of those things as we go so that they don't have to come in here. So violations, inspections, and penalties will happen more outside into industry, but we want to make sure that those things are not problems. More information can be found at osha.gov. So like I said, I'll have this as a slide show for you in case you're just having a hard time sleeping tonight, so that you can look through that and then you can get that taken care of. I'll have a safety test set in there. It'll be a general safety test. We will have a couple of extra safety tests as we go, specifically for machines. So you might be like, hey, I already took my safety test. Well, we'll have a mill one, bandsaw one, lathe one, separate ones as we go. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I've got most of your prints, at least the first few, for you to get started with for all of the sections that are in here today. So they go 101, 2, 3, and 4, I think is how they go. Feel free to double check in your course shells to make sure that you're gonna print out the right prints. We can go up to the copy machine up there. If you want to send a representative, that's fine. Or if everybody wants to go up there and print their own, if they need to. If you don't need to, then you don't have to. And so you can say, hey, how many 101s are in here? I'll let you guys make those decisions on how you do things. And then from there on out, we'll review all of our stuff that we're working on. And then we'll go out to the shop and start doing some sawing. So, make your decisions on